All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time again for Oh Yeah Trek Watch, and we're discussing episode 7. How we doing? This is John. This is Franco. This is Mitch. Good to see everybody. And once again, another mixed bag of an episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm holding my breath for a good episode.
Wow, I don't want you to die. Please don't do that.
I really liked it.
Good. Excellent. I'm always happy when we have a mixed bag. Mitch, you liked it. Feel free to begin and describe.
Well, it had a dog on it. And if you know me, anything with a dog, I'm like, it's going to be fun. But I didn't mind it. I didn't get mad at it. And here's the reason why, boys. I had an epiphany last week. Like the alcoholic, like the drug addict who's got that moment of clarity. I was watching.
I thought you were about to say, I'm an alcoholic now and I'm a drug addict while I watch it. I thought that's where you were going.
This show drove me to that. No, what happened is I watched, I don't know what it was called, the Trek Day, whatever. There was a Will Wheaton thing on where he talked to the cast members. He talked to the voices that are behind Balmer and Mariner and the whole crew. And then I watched another podcast video thing called Trek Yards with these British guy, and this I never saw it before. And they had Mike McMahon on, and Mike McMahon was on, and he was talking about their Cerritos and the history and the remember the Okudas, Mike Okuda and Denise. They used to do all the technical stuff. He was throwing out all this technical stuff that made sense, and I knew what he was saying. So I was like, oh, he's legit. He knows what he's talking about. And then I said, you know what? Maybe I've been too hard on this show, because what it seemed is you had all these energetic young actors, and you had Mike, and he looked like he'd do his homework, because I never saw him before. I thought he was just like some guy. And I said, who am I to shit on this show every week? Because it reminded me of like when you get these high school theater sessions. Wait, I just want to say, and you get like a college production, and they're not Broadway, but they do their best to make a show. And they really have their energy, and they're all into it. And you're going to say, oh, it's not like Broadway. It's not like 42nd Street. But the thing of it is, maybe it's not all meant for me. That's why I had this realization. I go, you know what? They seem like they know what they're doing. They seem competent. It's on every week. And maybe the reason why we get so mad, and I'll get to you, Franco, is this why I wanted my vision is it's not the show, but it's, and you might see I'm wrong, but it's us. It's not, everything is not always for us. I don't like rap music. I don't like stuff that my kids listen to, but they enjoy it. So who am I to sit there and shit on this show every week and go, that sucks, it sucks, it sucks. Maybe it's just not meant for me. And that was the thing I had this week. And after that, all the anger just went away, and I enjoyed this week's episode. I'm done talking.
Can I shit on it from my side and have your spot too? Because
I knew you'd say
it's still bad. It's still bad.
No!
Who am I to shit on it? I'm me. I'm someone who likes Star Trek, and this is not good. I have to admit, there was one or two things in here that I liked.
Yeah.
The through line all the way to the end, with something, those things I liked. Overall, no.
I thought it was
USS piece of shit is what I'm driving.
POS?
Yeah. No.
That's your okay. I liked a couple things, and we can get into the plot. And when we do, I'll talk about the couple things I liked. But I kind of am still with Franco. It was interesting to me. The dialogue was at warp speed. And I could literally not understand some of the, oh my God, I got this thing and I do it right now and it's really fast. And it's like, it really doesn't have to be that quick. Everything is at 11 with these characters. And it really is, it was most annoying this week than ever before. And it really is like, it doesn't have to be. You can just take it down 2 notches out of 10 and be at 8 or be at 9 as opposed to 11. But it's that, and again, that's where I kind of agree with you, Mitch. And like, all right, maybe the speed is for a younger group. However, I would still say, Mitch, disagreeing slightly, is they still make a ton of references to fans of 50 years of Star Trek. The fact that in the Bridge Cruise storyline, they're doing the riff on that Cardassian episode, There Are Four Lights, in the part 1, where everyone's on the covert mission. And in fact, Mariner even makes the point of, oh, we don't want to get a Jellicoe substitute captain. That's not for kids. That's for people that have been watching Star Trek for 30 years at least, or watch the reruns. So that, from that standpoint, and I'm glad you saw McMahon on Trek Yards, because truly that is the one through line that I do think they get right still, is the design and the aesthetic of the show. And I do think Mike McMahon is a genuine fan of Star Trek. Absolutely. So I but I like the idea of the dog. I'm not sure how the dog is a misfit the way that Boimler and the whole ship. I like the Ship of Misfits storyline. I thought that was interesting. And I loved, and you and I talked about it this morning, Mitch, the guy that's taken him to the farm is from Mr. Ericks's race. And that was fantastic. And truly, I'd even, dare I say, I'm going to still have to say 6 out of 10, because it still annoyed me more than pleased me. But if I were to just judge it from storyline to storyline, that was a 9. Because Mr. Eric, having somebody from Mr. Ericks's race, it was great to see. Much even better than Emrex, the feline race that the Doctor obviously represents. But the Eric's guy was hilarious, and I didn't mind the idea of all the other misfit crewmates. And I could see where Boimler was one. I wasn't sure why the dog would be considered one, but whatever.
Well, I think they explained that all as either medical anomalies or mysteries. So they couldn't figure out why the dog or how the dog came to be. So that was but I agree with Dante. Today's episode was weird and annoying. Because I liked the Ship of Freaks to an extent, when he goes and he tells the captain that they're going to mutiny. And, he goes, well, at the end, he goes, I guess I could have told them that we were on a long voyage and we could have put more lights in the cargo bay. And it's again, are you a Starfleet officer? Or if you turn bad, that's one thing. Okay. Right. If you're taking them to a planet to be experimented on because you've changed sides to another, whatever you've changed sides to, but he was a Starfleet officer. I don't know, that all of that bothered me. The one through line I did sort of like, and it annoyed me at parts, but I liked most of the way through, was the dog storyline. With when he turned into the cube, I actually laughed out loud because I'm like, that was funny. Yeah. And then at the end, when it talked, of course I could talk and stuff like that. Yeah. I liked that. The whole marinara sauce, line, hated it. Could see it coming a mile away. Knew what it was. Couldn't believe I still had to watch it. You
knew she was half-assing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because she said so. She said so in previous episodes. She said that, why be there? I don't want to get promoted, blah, blah, blah. So they made it seem like she was kind of stupid, but she's too smart to be stupid. She knows what she's doing, and they've established that already. If this was the only and first episode I was watching, maybe it would have been different, but they've already established this. They're going over the same tropes again, which is starting to annoy me.
Here's I got to ask you. I was totally confused today because when her classmate was already a captain and she's just an ensign, then it changes the whole character for me, because I'm like, how the frig old is Mariner? Because is she just like a loser? I mean, did she just get this job because her mom's on the captain and she's there? Because if her friend is already at a captain level, you figure that's going to be, 10 years since they graduated, and she's still an ensign? So I was like, she's like a loser hanging out with the I thought Bombers.
But she likes being a loser. She likes it. They've already established it.
Yeah, Mitch, especially as someone who knows old TV, she's Sergeant Bilko. She doesn't want to be promoted.
Oh,
so I almost see her, and again, whatever. Hey, I'm so capable. I'm Mariner. I do everything right. She's like Kirk was like young captain in terms of being such a promising cadet, and maybe should be a lot further along from her talent. But that said, yeah, she doesn't want, as she said, I don't want to be. And I kind of thought that she was fumbling because she's been so lazy forever that when it came time to do some stuff, she wasn't ready. But of course, you're absolutely right, Franco. No, she's too cool to be competent. And it's like, I'm sorry, again, fuck you. That again makes me hate you even more. And it is so anti-Star Trek that, I mean, that's the thing, like comparing to Rick and Morty, I think Rick gets away with, and we like Rick getting away with shit because he's an older guy. He's seen it all. And that's where I can see your confusion, Mitch, because honestly, it is like, well, this person has been around so long, they should be so much more competent and stuff. But yeah, she doesn't want to do that. That doesn't make you likable or cool. Yeah. That makes you an asshole. And that's why I root against you. And so literally all during Marinara's storyline, I'm like, good, keep failing. Fuck you. You suck. Yeah, this is why you suck. This is why I hate you. And then it's like, no, I'm confident, I'm cool, I'm going to save the day. And it's like, yeah, all right.
Well, the funny is they let her save the day, which was weird. Going to Franco's point, I go, shouldn't the other captain know how to do all this stuff too? I mean, that part I didn't get. I was like, why are they like listening to her? They're competent. They're a captain of a starship.
Well, again, they established that, you know, in school she was the one that was always getting them out of jams and stuff like that. They said that she's smart, and they've established it in previous episodes. She knows what she's doing. She can get out of situations. When she was on that planet with Boinger, whatever the hell his name is. These characters are so annoying. I don't want to know their names. That's how annoying this is getting to me.
See,
you know, she was on that planet. You know, she knew exactly what to do in every situation and saved his ass all the way down the line. So they've already established all this stuff. Boinger was so annoying in this episode. I think the only part in which I liked him was when the noise was happening.
Oh, the phasing.
The phasing noise was happening. I'm like, oh, finally, I don't have to listen to him.
Yeah, that's true. Listen, check out what Langley says. I'm sorry, Franco, finish.
Go ahead. It's just
because I like what Langley says here. He's like, I think I am the target demo for this. Late 30s, black, grew up with TNG and DS9, likes Rick and Morty, and it still bores the hell out of me. I've laughed 4 times out of the entire 7 episodes. I am so with you, Langley.
Yep.
I am so with you.
I am as well. I think what they're trying to do is really appeal to that broad base of Star Trek fans, and they're trying to appeal to us. They're trying to appeal to Langley. They're trying to appeal to new viewers. And for my job, they may be getting new viewers, but they're not going to be Trek viewers.
No,
you know, I mean, watching this, when you go to other episodes of Star Trek, you'd be like, "What is this?" I don't know that. I don't know that it's doing its job.
Can I ask real fast, Mitch? Because I want to ask the listeners as well, viewers. Did you guys get commercials this time?
Yeah, I did this time.
And Franco, did you get commercials?
Yes.
My version did not have commercials, which suggests to me that they are showing that regionally, maybe some weeks they're not showing commercials. It was very weird.
Yeah, I had it a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, and I remember Mitch saying that. So I don't know everybody else, because I know like Jack I know is in Chicago, and I don't know if Jack saw commercials.
I think I have the cheap version of CBS All Access.
I do too.
I get all the commercials.
I do too.
Mm.
So
I mean, I get the even cheaper version than you guys because I get more commercials than you guys do.
By the way, was anyone,
that's possible. But
no, there was a lot of commercials today. I did notice that it seemed to be more than normal. But they made up for it because you didn't get any, John.
I asked for more commercials so I don't have to watch the episode.
Can I pay more to not watch it?
I got to say, I was confused a couple times, like which ship I was on. And I don't know if it was just me. I'm like, okay, what ship is this? And then it would jump into the Misfit toy ship. And then it was going back to the whatever other ship was called that turned into a big jellyfish thing at the end. I was like, okay, where are we right now? So that annoyed me at one point. But
there was a lot in this episode, though.
There was, yeah.
Which again, it's like, okay, maybe there's just too much storyline. So Langley says, I pay for no commercials. He's in Chicago. Interesting. I don't know about everybody else, but yeah, that surprised me. I really liked the Misfit toy ship. I like the design of it outside and inside. I thought it was funny that it was so dark. I liked all the crazy people on the ship. And I liked
that's one of the things I interrupt you. I'm sorry. That's one of the things I really liked was because I'm a Star Trek fan, and you know how many transporter accidents they've had, and you know all the other stupid stuff that's happened to all these crew members.
Yeah,
that part was funny to me when they get on this ship of freaks, and there's a half old man guy and a half young man guy, and all these other guys. I thought that was funny because I'm like, where do they go when they have these incidents on these starships?
You know what's? By the way, Eric's race was an Adoshan.
Thank you. I was having to look it up.
The guy with the arm in the middle.
Yeah, the three arms, absolutely.
I was joking with Franco last week about doing a Captain Pike takeoff. About just
that was hilarious on the phone.
No, with the beep it sound every week. Like, did you like the show? Beep. What was wrong with it? Beep beep. And he said, "No, I don't think you could do that." And I said, knowing the politically correct world we live in nowadays, yeah, maybe it's not best to show this. I don't know what the term is nowadays for mobilely challenged guys.
Physically challenged people.
And there was a guy in the show,
three guys,
a woman, and they were in the chair with the thing, and I'm like, oh my god, I guess that's still okay to make fun of the.
See, when they were on the farm, and that's the other thing that bothered me. They were taking the dog to the farm.
Yeah.
When they were on the farm, and the three of them were there in Hawaiian shirts and they had drinks, that was hysterical to me. See, that was funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I thought that was great. I loved the Eric's guy. I thought and especially at the end when he's got the maniacal laugh and he's like, "Sorry, that's the way I laugh." I thought all that was really good. And I liked all the physically challenged people in the Pike chairs.
Yeah,
seemingly tropical and relaxing despite their handicaps. I thought that was pretty funny, man.
You would have thought they would have come up with a better treatment after 80 years or 100 years since Captain Kirk and the Captain Pike thing. I'm like, they're still doing that chair thing after all this. No.
Look at what Hatfield says. Wouldn't this humor format go better with the kids show they're working on? Not having seen Prodigy, I don't know. And also, again, I mean, there are weeks on this show that they kind of throw up the TV-14 rating, and I would assume that if they're making a show for Nickelodeon, it's kids safe. That's my guess.
This week, they just had violence, and they didn't have the language one. Whenever they don't swear, they don't put the, what is it, TV-14?
Yeah, and the captain did say something to Marinara that was bleeped, but I don't know what it was, and I'm sure if they wanted a kid safe version, they could easily dub in a different line or whatever to make it kid safe. So I don't know.
The only one I thought was talking really fast was Tendi.
Tendi.
In the beginning. Oh my God, I made a dog while I was on break. I told you I was going to the bathroom, but I really wasn't. And I did this. I was like, oh my God, please don't.
But you know what?
It's seven episodes, and we're still not sure about people's names. Tendi.
No, I wrote them down.
I know, but I'm laughing because again, it's been goddamn 7 weeks,
right?
And it's still
But that's just the thing. Yeah, they're not memorable enough to want to care. The only one I'm starting to like is Tendi.
Yeah, Tendi. Yeah, she's in Orion.
Yeah. She's the one who's starting to grow on me because she's at least consistent throughout each episode, and she's so energetic and she created that dog, and then when it started crawling on the ceiling, I thought okay, that's funny. And then when it licked her at the end, it was funny.
If I were in charge of the show, it would be all about Tendi and Rutherford because I actually like them. Because they're the only ones annoying than Boimler and Marinara.
But if you think about it, they're the only ones that are actually doing any work on the lower decks type stuff.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like you don't have to be incompetent or an asshole to be interesting and even funny. And that's what pisses me off. Boimler cannot get out of his own way. Mariner Beckett is the coolest and smartest person in the room every week. And it's like, fuck you. I'm sorry. There were weeks where Captain Picard was wrong.
Yep.
I mean, it's just like, I'm sorry that it's so one note. And I guess maybe for an animated show, you got to be one note. I don't know. I'm from Smarter Animation, having watched animation for decades. I like the Justice League.
I'm from the USS Smarter.
I like the old Star Trek cartoon from the 70s.
Fuck yeah, 70s, but yeah. Fuck
By the way, her last name is Bennett. I thought it was Mariner. Oh,
well, her last name I believe is Beckett. I don't know if that's the captain's name. I've seen her.
Yeah,
I mean, the captain was referring to the other captain. The substitute captain was referring to her as Beckett.
Oh,
so yeah. Here, Langley again says, Tendi and Rutherford are the only characters I can stand.
Yeah, Rutherford's cool.
Yeah. No, and again, they're funny. They're reasonably capable. They can still make mistakes and screw up at times. Or when Tendi was over anxious for Haley Joel Osment to ascend, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, it's like they're not universally One Direction, and whatever. And I thought it was funny that the chicks at the farm were really excited about Boimler, and then of course he had to go back because he's not misfit enough.
I'm trying to figure out why I like this episode. It didn't bother me this week. I actually
I think you explained it in your opening. You saw the guy and you see a hardworking guy trying to put a show together, and you're like, oh, I'm going to give him a break. Not me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, all that said, if I had my choice of showrunners where I want you to be the Lord God of New Trek, I'm voting for Mike McMahon because at least he's in the right direction.
Yeah.
As opposed to Picard, as opposed to Discovery. So,
he was talking about things like the Cerritos saucer section is really old and the new nacelles on the side come apart. And he was talking about how the elevators go diagonal. I mean, he was so Trek nerding out on this show. I was watching it, and then he showed this new Klingon show that's coming on. I guess ship. It's going to be on next week. I guess it's like a battle cruiser and a bird of prey. So it's got a new design. So he was getting all technical about it. I'm like, wow, this guy knows his shit. And I'm like, oh, maybe he's not such a bad guy. Or those weird flowers from that Eden episode have like blasted me in the face with their sperm pheromone. The spores. There, sperm.
I want you on my next horticultural show.
That's a different show I was watching, and
so
now I'm infected with the Jill Ireland drug.
Yeah,
and everything's fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Next weekend we're going to do the Star Trek botanical
I love that Spock is happy or that Kirk is happy music from.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The USS Botany Bay. I'm sorry,
not that one.
So when the flowers pollinate, plunge their sperm all over the garden,
and everyone's
really
happy
to clean up.
They need a spore drive on the Doritos. They need a spore drive.
Sadly, the marinara character is always right. Thing is sadly reminding me of Burnham. Yes, of Burnham on Discovery, my least favorite character in Trek history. I'm with you, Langley. Yeah. And further, and I've said this before, Langley. Once again, it's a young black woman that's the smartest person in the room, which is fine. But God, if Star Trek's for everyone, wouldn't it have been smart to make Marinara and her mom and father Asian or Latino or another race, as opposed to? I mean, that's great, man, that they're catering to a black audience and everything. But like we've already got that covered in Discovery.
I kind of see what you're saying, because both characters are absolutely right every single time, every episode. And that's a little annoying, because like you said, Picard would make mistakes. Riker would make mistakes. Yeah. The reason that you have a bridge crew is because they all kind of complement and play off each other and work together. That's not done here. I mean, maybe to a degree they're doing it, but it's just seems like marinara sauce all the way, all the time.
You know what's funny? Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with Langley. The design and the look was absolutely got me more interested and intrigued about this show. And I guess Langley agrees with us. Yeah, we don't get it. We don't get it either, man.
He said he based the ship on the Reliant from Wrath of Khan. That's
sure, clearly.
But anyway, I was going to say the lead actors who play Bomber and Mariner.
Yeah,
they were talking about when they got the job. I don't know. Did you watch that?
Yeah.
Interview? Well, they said they didn't know that they were the leads of the show when they first showed up and they were doing the read along or whatever you call it, the read through, and then they figured out how it was going to work. I go, see, that's interesting because maybe that explains why they're all screaming and yelling at each other first couple shows, because no one, even they don't know how they're supposed to be with their characters because they're not getting the right direction or something.
Well, that's what I was going to say is then that's not a great director.
Well,
I compare it to Andrea Romano, like who's the best in the business and was for decades. And literally, if you watch, for people who only watch the Lower Decks rewatch, my regular wordballoon
watch what they did with you,
yeah. We had the Justice League cast do a read through for Mainframe Comic-Con, and Andrea Romano literally, I didn't like the way you read that line, do it differently. And apparently, the whole cast like this is exactly what it was like when we were in the booth with her, recording a voice track for a show. And so I don't believe that. I mean, I believe them that maybe initially
they didn't know.
May not have realized they were going to be the leads. But that said, I think once they're in the story sessions, that no, you're the lead. Hey, you're the main focus right now, or whatever. I don't believe that to be the case.
Well, I'll show you what Will Wheaton's reaction was when he found that out. That's amazing. That's exact.
Well,
I'm like,
I know, and it's so great, and I'm so happy to be here. Apparently last week, and I haven't watched it yet, and maybe we'll watch it for next week when we review. But he did do a mid-season Ready Room. Well, I haven't seen it. Will did it. Oh, maybe that's what you watched.
That's what I. Oh, that's not what you saw.
Well, I watched all the Star Trek Day stuff, and not having seen the Ready Room. I don't know if it was the same.
Mid-season Ready Room for this show.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was part of the Trek Day thing.
Because he did. It could very well be. I don't know.
Oh,
but I know that he did a early on Ready Room about Lower Decks.
Yeah,
said he was going to do one in the middle and one in the end.
Oh,
so I'm not really sure.
No, this was the middle one because he said we're at the halfway point. And let's see some scenes from next week's show, episode 6, which we just watched with the dog. So I saw this last week, so I thought it was part of Trek Day. So maybe it's CBS All Access. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, and I mean, the Ready Room is always on YouTube, no matter what. So, and that's another thing that they make to say, hey, please subscribe to All Access.
Oh.
Yeah, Langley, I agree with you. It guts me that my least favorite characters in New Trek are the two black leads of the newest show. And he agrees that Andrea Romano is a VO directing goddess. She's always 100% Langley. Yeah.
And I want to like Michael Burnham. I like her as an actor. I like her on Walking Dead. I think she's really good.
Yes.
I just think she gets under my skin. She really does with like her character, not her, obviously.
Right.
No, it bothers me. It bothers me. The show bothers me. This is starting to bother me. I don't want Trek to bother me. I like Star Trek.
It keeps going back to, in the case of Burnham, it's insubordination. And you could say that about Mariner as well. And the other Lower Deck characters are just when they are like Boimler and also even Tendi and actually Rutherford is the one person I haven't seen be incompetent. I've seen Tendi's over enthusiasm lead to being a screw up. I've seen, Mariner doesn't care, and that makes me angry and hate her. And Boimler is he can't get out of his own way, and his own psychosis is keeping him from whatever. So, yeah.
They already forgot a character part about Rutherford from episode 1. Didn't he say his cybernetic implants were designed on Vulcan?
Yes.
He would get that droll, not emotional. That they never went back to that. I was just thinking about that. Like, what happened to that? That would maybe why he's not the one that screams and runs around out of all those characters. He never does that because maybe he's being leveled out by this Vulcan implant. But they don't.
Why isn't it more obvious that it's almost like, forgive me, it's almost like Marvel with Deathlock.
Yeah, he looks like Deathlock. Yeah.
And it's like, well, he looks like Deathlock. And also, you'd almost wonder that the cybernetic Vulcan side would come out more prominently as opposed to the scream, or maybe along the same lines as Boimler always screaming and being upset. And but they don't play that up. And I have no idea why, because that was an interesting wrinkle. Look what Michael Cooper has to say here. I don't mind Discovery so much. I think separating that crew from the 23rd century could be creatively liberating for the shows in this new season, but I do want more done with the other characters. I agree with all that.
I think I kind of said that last week when we saw when you told me that they had the preview for the new season. I said I'm kind of hopefully optimistic that they're going to do something good this season with Discovery.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, that they're not bound by
what
should be the parameters of what we know about the 23rd century. Yeah, I agree.
It's a clean slate.
Yes.
But hey, Franco, going back to my whole revelation, my epiphany about why I was giving the show such a bad time, and I'm not going to say particularly you, but you would understand this. I like the new Teen Titans. I grew up with Wolfman. I grew up with George Perez. That was my Teen Titans in the 80s, right?
Okay.
Flash forward to the early 2000s. I can't remember when you guys did Tiny Titans, but I had little kids. My sons were little. I would get them those books, and they would read them, and they enjoyed them. And then they would watch the cartoon. But I could never get into it because I was at the time late 30s, early 40s, and I go, hey, that's fine. That's not written for me.
Right.
That's written for a younger audience. But what I was going to ask you is, you never got insulted. Did people ever come up to you like, I love the Teen Titans. What did you do to my show? You made it too kiddish. And I'm thinking that's what we're doing, playing devil's advocate for this show every week. We're like, oh, fuck, this show sucks, everything. And we're like, are we doing the same thing that people might have done to other things that...
Well, we got a lot of that, but, what I found, excuse me, what I found is that when people like you tell me that you never read it because it wasn't made for you, so you didn't get into it or whatever, we found that if people actually read it, they come up to us and say, oh, you guys would pull in a lot of stuff from the old series, because we were fans of it, so we would put that stuff in there.
Right.
There's a through line when you're writing this stuff is you have to have a mindset that every person picking up our comic is going to be picking it up for the first time. There may be some things that you don't get, like anybody watching this episode of the Doritos show would not get the Captain Pike reference. They would not get some of the other references that were made specifically for us. And that's okay, because then maybe if they go back and watch those shows, they're like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Everything else, that's made for everybody watching the show right now. And that stuff is not funny.
Yep.
It's not funny. It's not written well. It just doesn't flow well for me. That's all.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, and that's, again, at the bottom line is lots of attitude, but attitude is a delivery system for humor. Where's the fucking humor? Not there.
That woman that commented at the beginning of the show that said something about her 10-year-old kid is watching it.
Actually, that was Mario, but I understood.
Okay, I didn't remember the quote. But I'm just saying, maybe because I watch MASH. I mean, it's today's 48 years ago that MASH started, and I loved that show since I was a kid. I still watch it, and there were references to things that I never understood because I was a kid. But they were talking about things from the 50s to the 30s, like Adolph Maju. Who the hell's Adolph Maju? Right. And what was that joke? And then I had to go look it up. But do you think that people are going to see the guy in the chair and go, who's that supposed to be? Captain Pike? And people that don't know Star Trek are looking it up like we looked up that alien with the Apex or Eric's. I had to go look it up because I remembered it, but I didn't remember it was.
They may be, but they don't. See, the thing is that they don't have to. They don't have to, because on the show it's just a throwaway thing. But if someone
it all comes to you, man. I mean, it still didn't keep you from liking the show. So here.
But if they took that out, if they didn't do any references to like Picard or Sulu and all that, would this still be Star Trek, or is that what they rely on because they go, look, we need to throw those little references every week because this show is so Three's Company in outer space. We have to let people know it's really Star Trek, not just the uniforms or the ships. We have to constantly keep reminding people. So are they using it as a crutch or as a story device?
I think. What'd you say, Franco?
I said you'd have to ask them because I have no idea what they're doing.
I have an answer. You just described Discovery, which I think is the least Star Trek looking show, despite the ship. I mean, the uniforms don't look like Star Trek. The attitudes don't feel like Star Trek. So, and again, you've got a divided audience that's accepting Discovery for what it is, and us that are like, Doesn't feel like or look like Star Trek to me. And yeah, every now and then you might hear Klingon or Kirk or Vulcan. But beyond that, does it feel like Star Trek? Does it look like Star Trek?
You take what they did with Enterprise, because they did the exact opposite of what they're doing with Discovery, right? Yeah. They started that off, and that was a show set in the past of everything
100 years before Kirk. Yes.
So if someone new is watching that, all of this is new to them. But to us that know about all the other Star Trek stuff, yeah, it was different, but it still felt like Star Trek. These don't feel like Star Trek to me. I know the cartoon is supposed to be funny, and maybe, I think I would feel better about the show if they went and went about it as a complete parody, whereas, they're still trying to do like straight down the line, linear stories with these storylines, but they don't feel Star Trek-y. You know what I mean? If they were a complete parody, maybe I'd buy into it more, saying, okay, it's not supposed to be in the timeline. It's not supposed to be, when you showed me that timeline, that it was in the timeline, I'm like, okay, this is where they're setting it. It's just not working for me.
Do you understand this member berry reference that Langley's making? He says that the Trek aesthetic is a crutch in his opinion. That reference stuff is the worst part of new Trek. Member berries, the series, and do you know about that with South Park? They had a whole storyline. If Mitch, do you remember? Or do you know about that?
I don't watch South Park.
Okay, like South Park literally had these. It looked like a bunch of grapes, and they're called member berries. And they were making fun of the Star Wars sequels. And literally, these grapes would say, "Remember Chewbacca? Remember R2-D2? Isn't that fun? Isn't this great?" And without anything else. And it's like, yeah, that's the point is, hey, look, it's a Captain Jellicoe reference.
Yeah.
Hey, look, there's Klingons. There's whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's great. You know Star Trek. We know Star Trek too. It's like I said last week when I made the Seinfeld reference about like, hey, remember when we used to have old pop-top cans and the ring would come off in your hand? And it's like, yes, we do. Great. Hey, I just bought a house. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, that's the setup. Where's the joke? Where's the punchline? No, we don't have one.
Well,
the joke is, hey, we remember it too. Great. Now I'm going to move on to something else. And it's like, that's not funny. All you've done is given us a Pavlovian reference, and we've responded, yeah, we're dogs. We hear the bell. We're barking. But that's not a joke. That's just triggering a memory. And now I wanted to go back, and Wayne makes a good point here. Going back... Let's all get on the couch and listen to Dr. Wayne here. Going back to my psychology courses in university, it looks like Mariner is acting out because she's either a child from divorce or her parents were so involved with Starfleet that they ignored her while she was growing up, or both. Could very well be, and I wouldn't.
That's fine. Why is she in uniform? Why is she on the ship? If she was a family member on the ship, like they had on Next Gen, she had families on the ship. Why is she in uniform? She would have been tossed out so long ago for doing what she's doing.
You know what was weird tonight? I caught that uniform thing when she was sitting up on her bunk and she's there in her. I don't want to sound like I'm getting sexually aroused by a cartoon show. She's there, her shirt's open. She's got a little bit of cleavage going on. I'm sitting there going, wow, this is really sexualized character. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I'm like, is she just sloppy looking, or she's out of? I mean, what is this like? What's the actress's name from Friends? The main one there, Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston. Rachel. I'm like, are we going for that now?
No, I don't think it's titillation because, frankly, I don't see a cleavage line when her shirt is open. I see someone that doesn't want to be starkly buttoned up. That her sleeves.
Well, that's why she has her sleeves up. Yeah,
her shirt is open because it's uncomfortable. And I just think again, I don't give a shit. So wait, here's some more interesting comments from everybody, and I'm so glad that everyone's chiming in. It's trying to be a meld type of humor to Star Trek that doesn't seem to work, but Trek has been funny. Look at Star Trek 4 or certain episodes with humor. That style of humor works with Trek. I completely agree. There has been 50 years of Star Trek parodies within the shows or shows making fun of Star Trek that are 10 times funnier. Here are more comments. T.H. Hatfield should be a non-Starfleet crew in the Trek universe running into these scenarios. Well, what I would say is, yeah, and I also think there's room for within Starfleet to be that State Department. Okay, the soldiers come in and invade, and now it's time for the diplomats to come in and do all the rough stuff. And then based on that first Lower Decks episode, I thought, and it seems like that is the capacity of the Doritos, that they are. It's like, okay, the Picards have come in and done that cowboy diplomacy, as Picard refers to Spock stuff, and done the tough stuff. Now it's time for all the boring stuff. And that's what this level of ships handles is, now it's time for the negotiations. Now it's time to understand a bit more about the alien race as they enter the Federation. So I do think that that's a role that Starfleet has played in previous Star Trek incarnations, and it's okay for this thing to do that. But, there's that.
They did do that tonight because they showed that they were going to a planet and planting some type of bulbs or something, and the other captain goes, "Oh yeah, that's really exciting or really interesting." Yeah. So they're making fun of them. So they do get the shitty jobs that nobody wants. And Mike McMahon referred to the opening. Know how we always talk about how the ship shows up and the Romulans are attacking the Borg and it just kind of gets out of there real quick. He said something to the likes that it's not the one that's going to be going boldly where no one has gone before. It's kind of the ship that kind of cleans up after everyone's done all the fun stuff.
It's not going funny into those scenarios either.
No, but I was like, okay, so it's a loser ship then, I guess.
Yeah, and it's a loser ship.
They've
established the Lower Decks people do the even more loser jobs on the loser ship, and that's why Mariner is so comfortable doing all that stuff. And Langley says, I get the idea of the character. She's just written terribly and annoyingly. 100%, man. I agree. And then he says, I almost think she would have been at home during the Maquis years of Trek. I absolutely agree. Marinara is like annoying Tom Paris, capable but goofing off because of parenting issues. 100%, man.
So if this was a live action show and they had them all cast as young actors, would her character be someone in their mid-30s, like that type, hanging out with
why not?
Hanging out with like a 22-year-old, like Palmer's like 22, and
you figure how old was Kirk in those early episodes? He was a young
30,
captain.
29, 30.
Yeah.
So
if you want to make him 35, sure.
Yeah, no, how old was the actor in real life? That's what I was thinking.
No, but I mean, he was supposed to be around that age, and if Marinara was such a kick-ass person in Starfleet, always doing this or that and top of her class, she probably would have been captain first. She would have been captain around the time she is now. So that would have been maybe older 20s that she would have been captain.
And even maybe early 30s. And compare that to the original series where we would see other captains or Commodores that were in charge of ships. And you had William Wyndham in Doomsday Machine. You had Captain Stacy in that one with the Yangs and the Combs. Or Bob Wesley in the one with M5. And all those things, and it's like all the other people that had starships were older officers than Kirk. There was never another young captain like Kirk, so that's why I do think Mariner would have been that kind of character.
Well, Riker used to always be offered promotions, and he kept turning them down. And they were like, "You should be the captain of your own ship now." Remember, they brought that up in the Best of Both Worlds. They were like, "Get out of my way! If you want to sit here and be under Captain Picard's, right hand for the rest of your career, that's great, but don't get in the way of the aggressive people." So maybe Riker was turning things down, but he wasn't a loser. He was just kind of he liked being there.
And misperceived as you're standing still, and it's like, no, I like this job, and this guy needs me.
Yeah,
I think this guy needs me. And what are you doing here, Will? Why? All that.
But also, I mean, from Will, it was explained over the course of time why he was there, why he wanted to be there. It's the Enterprise, for crying out loud. It's like, why would I want to be captain of another ship when I can be on the Enterprise type thing? I get all that. And it worked. It worked for the character. Were there bad episodes in Next Generation? Yeah. But there were good episodes too.
There were too many.
7 episodes into the Doritos, and I'm just not feeling it.
No, I absolutely agree. I'm really glad you saw Trek Yards, Mitch, because
it
really is the most technically aware of the YouTube shows that comment on Star Trek. And I mean, so if you're in, like, if people watching don't know about Trek Yards, which would shock me, you absolutely should be watching it if you love all the technical stuff, because they totally every type of ship. And it's so amazing, all the Eagle Moss models. There are literally dozens of ships that you can really study and get very granular with and everything. So, that's funny. Mike Cooper asks, when's the original series rewatch? Hey man, I'm sorry. It's just with Labor Day weekend, and also like Tom King really wants to be a big part of the original series rewatch, and that's the only reason why we've been kicking it down the road. I swear we'll get to it. And Tom is going to be on regular Word Balloon to talk about a couple, like Strange Adventures, which is midway through its run, and we're getting more information about the new Rorschach book that Tom's doing. So that's the reason why. And I'll talk to him on Tuesday, and we'll see exactly how he feels. I have a feeling that not this coming week, but the following week is when we'll start talking about original series. Langley watches Trek Yards. That's awesome. Yeah. So, and here, Dante says Shatner was 35.
Okay.
First episode of Kirk aired.
Yeah, I thought he was about 35. But I watched another thing because the guys that do Trek Yards, I'm going to say, are a lot younger than me. I'm 54 now. They look like late 20s, early 30s. So I said, maybe it's a generational thing. That's why I don't like the show. There's another YouTube show I watched called The Old Nerd, or I might be wrong, but like, and he's reviewing this stuff too. And he was all into it. Like, it was another fun episode. And I'm like, oh, so it's not an age thing, because this old guy, unless he's bluffing, he was talking about, oh, well, Mariner did this. And he seemed to be going along with it. I don't know if he was faking it, but I'm like, okay, so there goes that theory.
I really want to find somebody, a viewer, somebody who really likes this show. Yeah. And have them come on and explain to me why it's funny or why they like it. I would love that. I mean,
when Picard wrapped up, I did a Word Balloon, and I had 6 people on, and me and Cully Hamner were the 2 guys that are like, look, I'm just not feeling it from Discovery or Picard. Right. And I had David Gallagher, J.K. Woodward, and I'm naming them because they're all comic book people, and I'm assuming people watching this are Word Balloon watchers and listeners, so they know these comic book creator names. And right now, Scott Larson, a Chicago creator. So yeah, I think that was it. And the people that loved it, they're like, they can't explain it other than it just feels like Star Trek to me, and I'm enjoying it.
Loved what, Picard?
I loved Discovery and Picard. And Dante's like, didn't Negan do that? And I think Negan has problems. I think Negan, like Mitch, was basically saying
Negan has problems.
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah.
Well, that goes without saying. Yeah. And but yeah, no, he had problems with New Trek, but he also is like, hey, maybe this isn't for us. Maybe this is for a younger audience.
Well, that's the argument he was trying to make. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so Picard, I had such high hope, and there's that level you set yourself up that they'll never equal. You just sit there and you hear the music and you see him, and instantly you got 25 years of Star Trek lore in your head about Captain Picard and all the books that you might have read. It's never going to hit that height to the show that you made in your head, and it didn't. So I guess there's that.
It doesn't have to. What I'm always looking for a show is if it's well written, it takes you places that you don't expect. Right now, every episode of Doritos that comes on, I'm like, I kind of know where this is going to end up. I kind of know where this is going to end up.
I remain optimistic. It is the first season. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, on that Lower Decks Star Trek Day panel discussion, McMahon's like, I really feel good about the second half of the season. I really feel like we're firing on all cylinders as the season continues and gets towards the end. And by the way, there's my email, folks. That's why I always have it up there. If there are genuine fans of what we do that are like, you guys are nuts, I love this shit. Send me something, and I'm happy to have somebody come on and explain. And then truly not to be like overmatched with us. I honestly, as I did with that show I was describing, and it's on the Word Balloon feed, with all the other people that love Discovery and Picard, it's like, hey, I'm not here to change your mind.
Right.
Just trying to understand
right.
that we're not getting.
And by the way, send him an email, not me.
Yeah, exactly. Don't bother me. The other thing I want to ask you is, I heard this over the last week too, that I think the United States is the only cable or online service that we have to pay to watch Star Trek and Discovery and Lower Decks and all that, because somebody in Europe, I guess it's included with their Netflix, and all the like 100 something markets around the world automatically get all these new Trek shows with their Netflix and stuff. But we, being the gluttons of punishment, are paying extra $5 or $6 a month to get this show. And I'm going to say to you, if you were going to buy something in the store and they had Lower Decks out there, would you go out of your way to pay extra? But yet we're doing it because we're assuming it's going to get better. But why is that, John? Why are we being punished and paying for our misery while these other countries are getting Star Trek for free on?
No, it's the sorry, Johnny. It's the same thing as if you're paying for Netflix outside. If I was paying on Netflix, I'd be watching it there. But I pay for this streaming service, which I read this week isn't it rebranding next year as Paramount Plus or something like that.
John told me.
So it's another streaming service. So it depends on the deal they make to foreign markets outside of the United States.
Yeah, Netflix co-produced Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So for everyone outside of North America, and that includes Canada, when I say North America, they get it through Netflix, through the fact that Netflix is co-producing. The other shows, first of all, Lower Decks, unless they've cut a deal recently, is not available in other foreign markets. Picard is. Hold on, let me finish. Picard, Netflix rejected Picard. So CBS is producing Picard and Lower Decks completely on their own. They did cut a deal with Amazon for Picard. So people that are internationally seeing Picard are seeing it through Amazon. They are not seeing it through Netflix. And finally, and then that may not be the case for non-European. I just know for the Europe market, that's the case. It could be for the Asian markets. I have no idea. And then ultimately for Lower Decks, they both Amazon and Netflix rejected it. So CBS is the only ball game. Canada is getting all of these shows on Crave, which is a streaming service, and I believe Space is their equivalent of the Sci-Fi channel. And so those are the two ways that Canada is getting it. Mitch can explain, but that's essentially what it is. And
all that tells me is that the people in charge of Netflix and Amazon have to be our age and like us, because they don't like this stuff.
Well, that's the thing, man. Netflix saw what they wanted to do with Picard, and they're like, yeah, we're not interested. And also, Netflix really feels like they were had because they were buying Star Trek. 50 years of recognizable Star Trek. And they got Discovery, and they're like, we don't like this. And further, hey, you want the short treks? You can have them for $50 million. And Netflix is like, hey, F you, it's not worth it. Okay, fine, we'll make it $5 million. I mean, that's how low the ticket got. And they're like, we're not paying anything extra for the short treks. Finally, CBS gave for the European audience the short treks, and Netflix doesn't even think enough of them as considering them a separate season. They're under the special features. So you have to hunt to find the short treks on Netflix when you're watching Discovery and stuff like that. So, and here, Langley said, yeah, paying a premium makes it worse. It's not like the syndication days. That episode this week, wait for next week. 100%, absolutely.
Yeah, but also back in the syndication days, that was a big risk for them too, because it was new. It was a new thing with Next Generation. They didn't know how well it was going to go. So, yeah.
I really thought they were going for a thoughtful and reflective and philosophical storyline style for Picard. I was so wrong, so very wrong. They should have taken their time and done it right. I agree with that. And then here's Wayne points out a great flaw about this week's episode. Gentlemen, we're on the transport ship to the resort planet, and we're getting ready to mutiny because we don't believe we're going to the resort planet.
I liked how they beamed the entire crew at one time. I'm like, they could do that? I thought it was limited to, a couple transport pods, but I was like, oh, wow. Somehow.
Well, I think it's another through line that they didn't follow through with, because he's messing around with the transporter to transport them over faster. I think the takeaway was at the end he could transport all of them over like this time, bam, 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 one right after the other. They all came all over the transporter deck and the room all at the same time. So I don't know that they believed in their own technology there.
And I thought that was something he was working on his side job, and suddenly the captain knew about it, or whoever knew about it. I was like, how did they know?
And he explained it to Boingler, not to Marinara.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, how did she know?
I thought it was an echo of Chekhov from the J.J. Abrams movie, where I can do this. Yeah. That's what it felt like to me. And that's okay. Didn't bother me.
You know what? J.J. Abrams did that in Star Trek, and he did it in Star Wars too, and I hated that because Rey takes over the Millennium Falcon, and she's trying to outfly the TIE fighters, and she's like, I could do this, and I'm like, what are we doing? Making self-motivational movies here? What is this, like TED Talks or something? And then Chekhov did it, and this, I go, look, I don't see Luke Skywalker in the trench at the end going, I think I could do this. I think I could do. No, he does. That's a hero. They don't sit there and second guess themselves.
He was confident because he was blowing swamp rats out of the canyon.
When it's P-16 back home. Canyon. But all these people have flaws, and they're not great flaws. They're not character building flaws. They're just loser flaws. It's not like Peter Parker that, I learned my lesson because I didn't help somebody and Uncle Ben is dead. I'll never do that again. Great power, great responsibility. No, these people would let the burglar go by and Uncle Ben get killed and still not give a shit and learn anything and still go out and be Spider-Man on TV. They just don't learn anything. And that, I'm going to still say, is a problem with the show. There's no character development. How can you have a season like, the second half is going to be better than the first half when nothing happened character-wise in any episode? So what difference does it make if it's the 30th episode or the second episode? They're the same crap.
I like how Mitch was liking it at the beginning of this
episode. Baby. Exactly.
Rage is back. Rage.
There you go. No, I was going to say, comparing Chekhov in the 2009 film to Rey, I could see Chekhov being a Starfleet prodigy that has learned and excelled in his learning and saying, I can do this. I absolutely agree with you about Rey, where I've been in the desert and all of a sudden I'm the most capable captain of the Millennium Falcon, even more capable than Han Solo. And it's like, buying it.
It was set up that she could drive it because she didn't want to take that ship because it was a piece of junk.
Yeah.
That's why they were heading for the other ship.
Yeah, it got blown up. Yeah.
All right, a couple more.
Let's not start with Star Wars. I'll go.
All right, a couple more comments from the audience, and here is Dante. Dumb question. I always value a TV show or film if I buy it on DVD or Blu-ray. Blu-ray being I loved it and I wanted to see it, whatever extras I can. What do the CBS Trek All Access shows rate for you? And what format would you buy it in if you purchased any of the show seasons? I wouldn't. Nothing. I would watch it on TV, and that's it. So no, but it's a great question, Dante. I don't know about you guys. What you think? Would you be buying these seasons?
No, it's bad enough I'm paying for the premium service to watch it on CBS All Access.
Yeah, I'm willing to watch them, but having watched them, I feel no need to own them. No. As I've done with other films and TV that I really, really love.
And here's the other thing, like with all these streaming services, and you have Hulu, Netflix, CBS All Access, all of the other shows are available on those platforms.
Yeah.
And from time to time, I've watched them. I really can't see myself going back to watch any of Picard, any of Lower Decks, or any of Discovery again, except maybe the Pike stuff in Discovery. Yeah. I really can't see myself going back to rewatch any of that stuff.
The one episode I have rewatched on Discovery is the second season episode where they go back to Talos 4, setting of the cage, and it's all for the Pike stuff. Yeah. That's the only reason I've revisited that stuff. On Star Trek Day, I did rewatch the first episode of Discovery, and I found it interesting because, as I said, every other first episode, they showed the full story. Because I believe they were all presented as a 2-hour hunk. And Discovery, if you remember, the first episode they offered on free CBS, and then you were supposed to go to CBS All Access to immediately watch the second part. But for Star Trek Day, they only showed the first 3 episodes. So literally, the first episode ends in mid-story. And it's like, why aren't you showing the rest of this?
Because they still want people to pay to buy the service. That's why.
You're likely right, Mitch. But honestly, isn't that dumb? Because what happens in the pilot is so different from then what happens in Discovery. That I think, why are you denying these people the opportunity to even at least see that first story of Discovery, which frankly, I think is a better representation of Star Trek than what we got for the rest of that first season. And yeah, it ends on the downer that Michael is, arrested or whatever. But at least there are more Star Trek moments in part 2. And again, you get a full story. It's like, I don't understand their thinking. They almost, again, you're likely right, Mitch. That makes a lot of business.
Yeah, I wouldn't be so. Well, the funny thing is,
the rest of the story, well, you're going to have to pay for it.
I think Discovery season 1, maybe season 2, came out on Blu-ray because I'm pretty sure a friend of mine didn't buy any of this stuff. He goes, "Yeah, I bought it when Best Buy a Christmas thing, buy one get one for free or 2 for $30." And he's like, "Yeah, I bought both seasons for like $30." I'm like, "Wait a minute, I paid what $7 a month for a couple of months, and I could have bought this whole thing and watched it all at once." Yeah, I guess I was kind of stupid for doing that. I don't know why, but Picard's not out on Blu-ray. I don't think they ever released that.
Not yet. Here, Langley says, I wouldn't and haven't bought anything so far. And I bought all of Voyager on DVD, and I wasn't a big fan of it. My complete days of collecting all of Trek are over, I think. Totally the same way.
Yeah.
And that Discovery pilot ending, like with Berman committing mutiny, pissed me off so much. Yes, that's my point. It ended at the it ended of a teaser of, oh my God, this first officer has just committed mutiny and is being sent to the brig. And here's an entire fleet of Klingons going after whatever it was called, the Giorgio's original ship.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I forget what it was called.
Hey, do you know what I just thought? Do you think because we live in a post J.J. Abrams Star Trek world that it's ruined it for all the shows that have come after that? Because they want to be such action-oriented, and that whole philosophical thinking man Star Trek is gone. It's all over with now. It's all.
What do you think, Francis? I have an answer, but I'll let you answer first.
Because it happened.
It seems that way. I don't want to say that's. It shouldn't be. I mean, Star Trek has always been a very smart show. It's and it doesn't seem like it's really holding up to its moniker lately.
No, that's what I mean, though.
Yeah.
In the last, how many years has it been since Star Trek, that movie? 10 years now?
11 years.
And I liked that movie.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. It was a big change. But see, that's what I'm talking about. It was a big change, but the tropes were there. The story was good. The action was good. I like the movie a lot. I've watched it. That's the latest. The Shenzhou. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Langley. That's the only Trek I've actually rewatched. New Trek
is the movie
that I've actually rewatched more than a few times.
My answer to that question, if I may, before you start, Mitch, is I think the only reason why it continues to go into that direction is Alex Kurtzman started as a collaborator of JJ's and now still feels the most Star Trek person in that original movie room in the JJ office was Bob Orci. And Bob Orci was ejected after Star Trek Into Darkness, the second movie. So now it was just Kurtzman and the new guys who wrote the third Star Trek movie, Star Trek Beyond. And with JJ's blessings, now it is the Kurtzman show. So Kurtzman still follows that philosophy of Trek needs to be different than what it was. It was too cerebral. That's why I didn't like it. That's why JJ didn't like it. So with those people in charge, that is the philosophy. I think somebody like Mike McMahon has come in and has a different point of view and has been able to convey that to this current regime, that let me do a show in this direction and still be funny. They bought it. They seem to get it. And supposedly what they're saying about Strange New Worlds are, Okay, fans, we heard you. Strange New Worlds is going to be episodic. Strange New Worlds is going to be more like classic Star Trek. We'll see when we get it. I have no idea, but you're absolutely right. All the boats are going in this direction because they believed what JJ believed.
Well, no, I think the only other example I could show you is Star Wars, which I'm a diehard. If I turn the camera around, you see all the Star Wars posters here. That's my favorite, but I hate the new 3 movies. I wanted to like them, and it had all those member berries, like you said. They had Han and Chewie and the ship and all that stuff, but it's hollow. It's not the same. It's a retread of the old movies. And don't you like it because it's Star Wars? I don't like it because it's Star Wars, but thank God The Mandalorian came by with Jon Favreau, and they had more like my type of Star Wars, that old school stuff. And I like that show, and I'll watch that. Same thing with Trek. I watched the J.J. Abrams movie. It was exciting. My kids liked it, but it was a Star Wars Star Trek. It was never Captain Kirk and Picard and all that stuff. The second movie, I hated it because they tried to be like Wrath of Khan, which made no sense whatsoever. And the third one, I even forget I even saw that movie most times. I'm like, oh yeah, there was a third movie with Idris Elba, right? And you don't even know it. And the same thing with Discovery of Picard. I will never watch those shows again. I did rewatch that one with Talos 4 because I was like, oh, let me go back and see if I missed something because I like that old Star Trek. But there's nothing going on. I don't watch the new Star Wars movies again. I don't watch the new Star Trek again. Maybe
I'm excited because in October we get to do 2 shows, one on Star Trek and the other one on The Mandalorian. So
I'll watch The Mandalorian all day long. I'll go watch that.
No, I have no problem talking about The Mandalorian on this show. Here, Michael asks, what happened to Nick Meyer? He was involved in CBS All Access in the beginning.
Yeah.
And Langley says, still don't understand the Nick Meyer thing. It's crazy to me. They just left him adrift. Yeah, Nick Meyer, for people watching who don't know, made Wrath of Khan and was working on supposedly a Khan series that takes place on this is City Alpha 5. And, we have no idea. I mean, it's on the back burner. It's not in development as far as production. And in fact, Rob Burnett got a hold of the treatment that Nick Meyer wrote, read it on his YouTube show. That episode was pulled from a complaint by CBS All Access. And further, Nick Meyer contacted Rob and said, hey, I didn't appreciate you reading that stuff on the air.
Wow.
And very interesting. And Rob apologized and said, gee, I'm really sorry, man. I thought it was dead, so I thought it was okay to read. It's floating out there in the internet. And Nick's like, I'm shocked that it was floating out there. I have heard rumors regarding Nicholas Meyer, and I am a massive Nicholas Meyer fan.
Yeah.
I love Time After Time. I love the 7% Solution. I love Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 6, both of which, and 4. He was heavily involved in all of those. That said, I hear that he can be very difficult to work with, and that's why we haven't seen a lot of Nick Meyer movies beyond the ones we've just mentioned. So it is what it is. I mean, I know there are, creatives out there that are brilliant, but very difficult to work with, and then you don't get the calls.
So that's legitimately on. I could do a Google search and find this con.
All I know is Rob did.
Really? That seems crazy that it's that.
I have no idea where he went to find it.
Oh, wow.
But yes.
Something that official is just laying out there. Oh, wow.
Again, this was Rob's explanation.
Yeah.
Both on his show and my show talking about this. So
now,
I don't know.
Why were they upset? Because he read it, or it wasn't? They didn't want it to get out there. I mean,
yes, because they're like, hey, that's our property. Here, Langley even says Rob Burnett read and distributed and described the script. It was great.
Yeah. And
then Langley didn't know the video was pulled. Oh yeah. You can't go back in Rob's feed and find it. And like I said, I talked to Rob about it when I had him on my marathon episode with Rob. I love talking to Rob.
Yeah.
But then further, I talked to other Hollywood insiders who told me, look, we're fans as well, but Nick Meyer has a reputation of being very difficult to work with. That's why you don't see a lot of Nick Meyer projects out there. It is what it is. And also I got why CBS was pissed. And it's like, yeah, man, you can't, there's a reason why they've got all these non-disclosure agreements floating out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even stuff that they don't necessarily commit to filming, if they commission something, they own it.
Oh yeah.
And it really kind of, to be honest, I was like, Rob, you should know that. I'm like, come on. But again, he's like, well, it was out there. I thought it was fair game.
He read that Star Wars treatment that was on.
He got in trouble for that.
Yeah. He did for the 9th movie. I watched. Yeah,
they didn't yank it. They didn't yank it, or maybe they did. I don't remember. Again, Langley might remember better, but I do know that Disney and the Lucas people were not happy that that treatment for Colin Trevorrow or however you Trevorrow. I forget how you say it.
Yeah.
You know that guy's ideas for Rise of Skywalker were out there. What are you gonna do? You know,
I don't know.
Is there other Trek news? Is there anything else?
What else did I learn from that? So there's going to be a Klingon ship. It looks like it's next week's episode, next week's episode. What were the references this week for old Star Trek? The Captain Pike chair, the Eric, and there was one more because I'm like, oh, this week they didn't. Well, they said Jericho, so it's always 3. Every week there's always 3 like references. So
I thought we covered them all.
2 visuals and 1 actual reference. So I guess that was
3, and also the other visual reference was the bridge crew on the covert mission, and in those black covert suits like Next Generation in that Cardassian episode. So beyond mentioning Captain Jellicoe, the bridge crew was on and also looks like next week there's some sort of covert mission based on the clips and stuff like that.
I thought the other one was, didn't that thing look like the encounter at Farpoint?
Absolutely.
Jellyfish thing at the end when it floated away?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So no, that's I think we covered it all, and except for mentioning that now at the end and everything. But I thought very much so. It was like the encounter at Farpoint Alien at the end.
So, Franco, do you give it a fart rating again? My wife cracked up when I told her that you rated last week's episode an audible gas sound. I said, not even 1 to 10. It's just a fart. I'm like, that's not nice.
Yeah. This one, I don't know.
They had a dog. You got to give it up.
I gave it 6. 6 out of 10.
I don't know.
Because
you know what? I refuse to rate them at this point.
I reject your premise.
What time did
I don't know what else I can do besides like a gas fart sound, like I did last time. I don't know. Like a raspberry. I don't know.
All right. When did you watch it? In the afternoon, just before this? I got up early and watched. The first thing I did today was watch Star Trek.
Yeah,
I watched it at lunchtime. Actually, during my lunch hour, I'm like, oh, it's a half hour. I can squeeze it in while I eat my lunch. So that's when I did it.
You could squeeze it in and then squeeze it out as a fart. That's
as a fart. Yeah. I was gonna give it a 7. I'm nuts.
Well, again, you liked it. Well, and again, maybe we changed your mind by listening to us for an hour. I don't know.
It's that spore thing. Oh wow, everything's cool.
I love that episode. I love Jill Ireland. She was lovelier in that movie, in that episode.
We should film ourselves with the Vaseline lens. I always bothered me about that episode. Every time they showed her, she was like glowing. I'm like,
oh yeah,
what the hell, man?
That's so funny. Langley's like, I thought this was maybe their best episode. But
yeah,
great. To me, after 7 episodes, it's still the 3rd episode that's the best one, where Mariner and the first officer are in the cave, and the aliens invade the ship. And they got the spears and everything, and they're angry.
Oh, yeah.
And Boimler's like, wait a minute, I got a phaser. Yang, yang, yang. And just, mows them all down. That's my favorite episode so far.
Well, Franco liked the one with the Klingon, the away mission.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was funny.
What's your favorite episode so far, Mitch?
This one with the dog. I thought it was fun.
All right, there you go. You and
again, I just like dogs, so I was like,
we got 3 more episodes to change everybody's minds about a new favorite episode.
they better bring the dog back. I don't know why they let the dog go at the end. That was totally out there. I'm like, why?
I'm still confused why the dog was a mutant, considered a mutant.
Because she said you are a freak at the end when the dog flies around.
Yeah,
it is a freak.
I guess, but it's not a negative freak like half old man, half young man.
I loved when it came running in and turned into a cube.
That was hilarious.
No, and then it did the alien thing on top of the ceiling, like the thing or something. I was like, I thought the whole show was going to be them chasing the dog through the ship. So I was like, I didn't see this.
But again, Mariner, that's whatever. Let me know if I need to be worried about this. Fuck you, asshole. She's an asshole.
Wow.
I mean, really, that should be Lower Decks, and the subtitle should be Star Trek: The Asshole.
Mitch, aren't you happy that he was so upset at this episode he didn't yell at you this time?
I know.
As I promised, and everybody watching, I apologize. I felt really, really bad last week, and I'm sorry that I went over the top, and that's all on me. I have tried to apologize for the last 7 days to Mitch, and
Keep going.
Did you put it in writing?
No, I didn't put it in writing. But
I want the William Shatner thing. Let me just tell you, if you're going to get upset about this piece of shit show, if you want to put your flag on that hill for this battle, that was a wasted flag. I'll tell you. I was just like, what are you getting mad about? We're all mad. We don't want to watch this show every week, but we do because we love you. It sucks. It's like prison. It's like being home.
We're on that ship. But we're not going to the farm.
We're on
that crappy ship.
All right, let's make a pact. Next episode, we talk really, really fast and high pitch, and we try and get through this whole episode in 20 minutes.
No, honestly, I feel like we didn't waste any minutes here, or we're
no.
But what was I was just gonna say, beyond discussing the angry stuff, I don't know what I was gonna say. Hold on. All right,
let's go back and watch the original Star Trek cartoon.
See, there you go. Here, new viewer. So glad I haven't seen a single frame of this, but thoroughly enjoyed the banter about it. Yeah, man. Honestly, as everyone knows, sometimes it really is entertaining to watch. Something that we would think we'd love, but then it turns out we hate. So, as annoying as the fandom, the anti-Star Wars fandom has been about the prequels and the sequels. Sometimes there's a lot of funny, entertaining stuff watching them rant about why this stuff sucks.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, I absolutely get it. So
my highest rated podcast ever I've done in the last 4 years was the one where I did the review of The Last Jedi. It had like 3,000 downloads. I was like, oh, my God. People.
I was going to say, I'm sorry I watched that one.
No. This was an audio. I didn't do a video. Tomorrow, speaking of shitty shows, I'm going to be reviewing the top 10 worst sequels of all time, and there was not one Star Trek movie on my list, but there should have been, because I was just thinking about that.
Where can they hear that? Tell them where they hear that.
Well, it's online. It's on WPLR.com, the Chaz and AJ show, but it's also around the world on, what is it, iHeartRadio or some shit?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah, man. And yeah, Langley says, I enjoy watching Lower Decks because I enjoy these reviews live. Thank you, Langley. Appreciate that. And Michael is teasing, yes, later tonight on Word Balloon Live. It's going to be Obit, the latest episode 7 of The Outer Limits, and that's going to be me and Gabe Hardman and Jeff Parker, possibly B. Clay Moore. So there you go. Oh, thank you, man. Dante's like, these reviews are better than the 2 so far.
It's a very high bar.
Makes me feel better about how much I don't like New Trek. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
And Wayne says, I missed the first 20 minutes of today's review. I'm looking forward to watching you guys. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
No, honestly, everybody, seriously, really glad you guys are sticking around. Glad you're watching. Doing what I can to get the audio version on its own separate track, but I've also been posting them on our podcast feed audio-wise. And, I'm trying to think of any other show notes before we wrap. That's pretty much it.
I want the Magatu to come on when they show Magatu next week, or they're going for like desperation.
Was the Magatu the root, or was that the white ape?
The white ape
with the horn.
Yeah, that was the Magatu.
Right, that was the Magatu. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure
because they're desperate. Or if they do I Am Kurok, there's so many bad Trek episodes. If they start referencing the bad shit, then they're in trouble.
This is like therapy for Trekkies, 100%, man. No, absolutely, Michael.
Oh, I thought of a new name for us. You know how they have hipsters?
Yeah.
We're Treksters. We're like old Trekkies. We're Treksters, man. That's my new thing.
No, I'm with you. Well, that's why before the podcast existed, I was calling Rob Burnett a Trek spurt. Because he is.
Well, that sounds sexual in nature.
Yeah, Trek spurt, exactly. We're back to Matt's splooging on.
That flower that shoot the sperm at me again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good night.
All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody. We'll watch next week. As I always end every episode with, Stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. I want to bring up the closing theme for us to get out of here. Where the hell is it? Where the hell is it? It's the thing. There it is.